click the video. Shut up. You click the video because you need some help. Let me help. Let's get into the video. All right, so let's talk about price action, aka market structure and trends. So price action is just allowing us to have a better understanding on which way the market moves. Are we going up or are we going down? And this is important. We can't understand which way the market is heading if we don't understand market structure. Market structure allows us to know if the market is going up or if the market is going down. So when we're talking about market structure or price action, we're talking about higher highs and higher lows and lower highs and lower lows. When you see higher high or higher low, you know that we are bullish, aka we are buying the market. When we see a lower high or a lower low, that means we are bearish, aka selling the market. When you think of price action, think about like we're in a hospital, right? We got the little thing on our finger monitoring our heartbeat. And when it's monitoring our heartbeat, what's happening? Price does something like this. Boom, 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 boom. Flat line, peak, flat line, peak, flat line, peak, right? This is structure in the heartbeat monitor. It's showing you, okay, well, this is a good heartbeat or if this is a bad heartbeat, so on and so forth, right? It's showing you the structure of how our heart is beating. So it's the same thing with market structure. When we think of price action, it's the same exact thing. When price has the extension, we formed a high. Price then forms a retracement. This is not anything in the market just yet. But as soon as price have the second extension, we then broke past a recent high to do what? To go and form a new high point in the market. And in order to have this high point, what did price do? Well, if we go back to the base of this move, we see that this is a higher low. Why is this a higher low point in the market? Because this low is higher than that previous low price has formed. And then if we continue, price then had the extension, correction, and another extension. This extension broke past this recent high to go form a new high in the market. So we mark this off like so. And if we drag this back down, in order to have a higher high, it's mandatory to have a higher low. Why? Because in order for price to have a break past this recent high point, price has to form a low point that allows this extension to take place. If we continue, what happens? Price then has that correction and then the next extension breaking past these higher highs, which goes to form a new higher high. So we mark this off as our higher high. And then if we take a look, where is the last low point that allowed this extension to happen? Well, that last low point is around here. This will be our new higher low because this allowed this break of structure to take place. What do I mean? Well, if we draw this out, let's do something like this. So say if price forms some type of, we'll do like this. Say if price forms a retracement and then forms some type of push like so. What just happened? Well, price just broke out of our higher high, which we can now see this will be our new higher high point. And then in order to have this higher high point, we have to have a higher low that allowed this move to happen. If we follow this line back down, where's the last low point? That last low point will be around here. So we can mark this, we can mark this off as our new higher low. But say if something like this took place, right? Price had the correction and then price started to have this extension back towards the upside. Would this be our higher low? No. Why? If you take a look, price never gave us a break past this higher high, meaning that this is still my higher low and this is still my higher high. We're still bullish, but price never showed me a break of structure. It is mandatory that price gives you a break past your higher high in order to have a higher low. Because once price gives you a break, it's showing you that price is still continuing towards the upside. And in order to form this break of structure, price had to form a low point that allowed this break of structure to take place, aka this higher low point. So now we have our higher low and we have our new higher high due to the break of structure taking place. But if price never shows us a break of this higher high and price does something like this, this will not be a higher low point. The only way to have a higher low is if price gives you a higher high, aka break of structure, break past this recent high. But if price never breaks past this high, one, we have no higher high, and if we have no higher high, that means we have no higher low. So nothing is taking place. This is still my higher low, and this is still my higher high. And price is still bullish. In order for price to not be bullish, price will have to do this. Price will have to break out of this higher low, aka giving you a switch of structure. When you see a switch of structure, this is like a, hey, look at me, I'm waving my hands, pay attention. This is showing you that the trend of the market is flipping. So instead of us continuing towards the upside, we see that price has now gone towards the downside due to the break pass of this higher low, aka the switch of structure. So when we see a switch of structure, what has taken place? We see that price has no longer formed a new higher high or higher low. Instead, price is breaking past this higher low to go and form a lower low, because now this low is lower than this previous low, which will make us look like this, right? You can obviously see price is going from up to now down due to the break of our higher low. So now let's talk about a bearish trend. So when we're looking at a bearish market consists of lower highs and lower lows, which means bearish, aka we are selling the market. So when we're looking at lower lows and lower highs, what is taking place in the market? That's actually what we're going to do. I'm going to delete these and we're going to do the same thing we did on the bullish example. So when price is going in a bearish trend, you see price has that extension and then price forms the pullback. Then price forms another extension, and what just happened? Price just broke past our recent lower low to do what? To form a new lower low. So then we can mark this off like so, as this being our new low point. But in order to have a lower low, we must have a lower high, the last high point that allowed this break of structure to take place. Where would that be? Well, if we start from our new lower low and we just follow the line backwards, we see that this is the last high point to present us with this break of structure, aka our lower high. And then what did price do? Price then formed a pullback and then the next extension back down. We see what? We see price give us this extension, breaking past our lower low to form a new lower low. So then we mark this off as our new lower low. But like we just said, in order to have a new lower low, it is mandatory we have a lower high. Well, if I follow this line back up, this is the last previous high point that presented us with this new lower low. So this would be our new lower high. And same thing, price then had the retracement and then the extension back down, giving us another break past our lower low, going to form a new lower low being here. And then in order to have a lower low, we must have a lower high. So whereas the last previous high point price was at, that presented us the break of structure. This will be around here. This is the last high point that presented us with the break that established this new lower low. So we can mark this off like so. And the same thing, if we drag this line like this if price does a pullback, if price forms a pullback like so, and then has a move like this, would this be our new lower high? No. Why? Because price never gave us this break of structure. In order to have a lower high, price has to form the break past our previous lower low. But in this case, price never performed a break past this lower low, which means this is not a lower high. This is just a pivot point in the market that nothing took place. As long as price stays above our lower low and below our lower high, one, we are still in a bearish market, but two, most importantly, nothing has happened. We don't have a break of structure, which means we don't have a new lower low and we don't have a new lower high. In order for us to have this as being our lower high, price has to give us a break past our recent lower low. So as soon as we see this in the market, we can then mark this off as being our new lower high, because this is the last high point that established this break of structure. And now we have a new lower low. You see how that works out? So now let's say that price, instead of having the break of structure towards the downside, we have a break of structure towards the upside. What has taken place? Well, again, we have a switch of structure. Why is that? Because we see price was trending bearish, and then price had an extension towards the upside, breaking past our recent lower high. As soon as price broke past this recent lower high, that means price is going to form a new high in the market. This high being higher than this previous high point, aka a new higher high. And if we form a higher high in the market, what does that mean? That means we are in a bullish market, because in a bullish market, it only consists of higher highs and higher lows. And so knowing that, price can easily do what next? Price can have the correction and then have another extension back towards the upside. Once price gave us this break of structure, we know that now we have a new higher high in the market, but in order to have a higher high, we must have that higher low. So where would be the last previous low point that presented us with this break of structure? It will be here. So now we have what? We have this being our higher low. Now you see how we go from lower lows and lower highs to now higher highs and higher lows, aka performing the switcher structure. And as we perform the switcher structure, we see that we have new structure points, higher high and a higher low. When we see something like this, we know now price is bullish. Let me know if you understand that in the comment section down below. Now I'm going to show y'all how to apply our higher highs and higher lows and lower highs and lower lows to candlesticks in the market. Hold on, you'll know what I mean. Okay, so now to incorporate this into the candlesticks, because this is all you see, these are just candlesticks in the market. So you have your line chart, which we did. I don't recommend using the line chart because you won't get the best structure overall. You go to candles and you see the candlesticks of the market, because this is what you trade anyway. We trade the candlesticks, we don't trade the lines. So when we're looking at the market, there's a technique I like to call the snake pattern. Shout out FX Alex G. He's the one who taught me this, and I'm able to teach you all this. So what you want to do is you're going to grab your path drawing tool. So if you look over here towards the left, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth one down, if you click the arrow, you will see, if you go all the way down, it has the path tool. This path tool, you can pull a star and it will put it in your area over here. If I take this away, you see how it takes it away. But if I put the star, it's quick access towards this tool. So you get the path tool, you start at any given high point, any given low point. We're going to start around here. So when we're drawing out structure, You're going to start at this high, and we're just going to follow the snake down. The snake is moving. The snake then has a sharp turn the other direction. Is this the sharp turn? No, this is not a sharp turn because it does not drastically take me the opposite direction. Price is still moving, moving, moving. We have a sharp turn in the market. Sharp turn in the market. We're following the snake. Is this a sharp turn? No, the snake does not drastically take me the opposite direction. So the snake's moving, moving, moving. Sharp turn, moving, moving, moving. Sharp turn, moving, moving. Sharp turn. Is this a sharp turn in the market? No, personally, I don't like it, so I'm not going to mark it off. This is a little hiccup in the market, and this snake continues towards the upside. Sharp turn, sharp turn, sharp turn, sharp turn. Okay, so now if we drag this over here like so, what can we see as taking place in the market? Well, starting right here, we see price is moving towards the downside and created a what? A lower low. So we can mark this off as what? Our lower low. And then what happened next? Price then had the retracement and then the next extension back towards the downside. This extension gave us a break of structure. What do we know when price breaks past our recent lower low? We know price has to have a lower high. So this high point, the last high point in the market that presented us with the break past our lower low will be our new lower high. And this will be our new lower low. And then what happened? Price then had a extension towards the upside, giving us what? A break past our lower high to go form a new higher high, which means we have a switch of structure. We're going from bearish to bullish due to price forming a new higher high in the market. So now, in order to have a higher high, we must have what? A higher low. So what would be the last previous low point that gave us the break of structure? Well, if we just follow the line all the way back down, we can see our recent lower low will be changed to the new higher low due to this point being the last low point that gave us this extension to create the new higher high. And then what happened? Price then had the retracement back down, and then price had another extension, aka breaking past this recent higher high to go create a new higher high. So we know that in order to have a higher high, we must have a higher low. Whereas the last previous low point around here. So now we can mark that off as being our new higher low. And then what happened? Price then had the retracement and the next extension. On this extension, let's circle it, would we mark this off as being our higher low? No. Why? Because if we draw out this line, we have the line at our higher high and we have the line at our higher low. Did price ever present us with the break past this of this higher high? No. Therefore, we don't have a higher low. In order to have a higher low, it's mandatory that we have a break of structure. Once we see price break past this high, we know that we are going to form a new higher high. And in order to form a new higher high, we must have a higher low that allowed this break of structure to take place. And if we look right here, we never got a break past our high, meaning we don't have a higher low. We're still bullish, we just don't have any new structure. This is still my higher low, and this is still my new higher high. And then what happened? Price then had the retracement and then the extension back towards the upside. Once we seen this extension, we saw that price performed a break of structure, breaking past our recent higher high. Like we just said, when we see price break past our higher high, that means we have to have a higher low. And if we just follow this line back down, with this or point 1 or point 2 be my new higher low. Point 1 will be your new higher low. Why? Because as we follow this line towards our new higher high, where is the last previous low point that presented us with the break of structure? Well, if we follow this back down, this is the last low point that presented us with the break past our high. It would not be this, because if we mark this off like so, that means you're saying this is the last low point that presented you with this break of structure. This low point never gave us a break of structure. This low point had an extension, but this extension never broke past this recent high. That means this is not structure. But once price had the retracement and then price formed the second extension back towards the upside, this last low point gave us this break of structure, which means this would be our new higher low. And then once price gave us the break of structure, we see price then have the start the next retracement, forming our highest high. This is the highest point before price formed the retracement. So now, if we drag this back towards structure like so, now let's mark off our higher lows once more. We start here, we see price have this move towards the downside, our low point. This is our lower low. And then price had the retracement, and then price had the next push that gave us a break of structure. As soon as price gave us this push, the break past our lower low, we know that this has to be our lower high, since this is the last previous high point that allowed this break of structure to take place. So this would be our new lower low. And then what happened? Price then had the move towards the upside, and as we're having this move towards the upside, we see a break of structure take place, breaking past our recent lower high. Well, if we break past our lower high, that means we're going to form a new higher high. We mark this off as being our new higher high. Well, in order to have a higher high, we must have a higher low. So where would be the last previous low point that presented us with the break of structure? Well, if we follow this back down, boom, we see that this is the last previous low point that presented us with the break past our lower high. So now this would be our new higher low. And if we continue to follow price, what happens? Price then has the retracement, and then price has another extension breaking past our higher high. In order to have a break of structure, we must have a higher low. So as soon as price gave us this break of structure, we can now mark this off as being our higher low, since this is the last previous low point that presented us with the break past our high. And then what happened? Price had the extension, and then price stopped pushing towards the upside and started to form this retracement. This will be our new higher high, because this is the last high point before price started to form the retracement. And then what happened? Price then had the extension. It never broke past this higher high. And then price had the retracement, and then price had another extension, giving us a break past our higher high. As soon as price had this extension forming the break of structure, we can now mark this off as our new higher low, because this, not this, is the last previous low point that presented us with the break of structure. And if we continue to follow price, boom, 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 price hit the highest point before it formed the retracement, making this our new higher high, right? And now, if we continue to draw out structure, we then see what? We see price have the retracement. We never formed the break of structure just yet. What happened? Price then has another move towards the upside, forming the break of structure of our higher high. We can now mark this low point, being the last previous low point that showed us this break of structure, as our new higher low, like so. And then we have our higher high being here, because this is the last high point price was at before we formed the retracement. So now we have our new higher high. Does that make sense? And if we continue, what happens next? Then price shows us a switch of structure. We see price have this extension towards the downside, breaking past our higher low. And if we break past our higher low, we know price is going to form a new lower low, aka going from a bullish to a bearish trend, which also means a switch of structure. So now, since we know that this is our new lower low, where would be the lower high? Well, where's the last previous high point that presented us with the break of structure? That would be here. So now our higher high changes to our lower high, because we see price go from a bullish to a bearish trend. And then what happened next? Price then has another switch of structure towards the upside. How do we know that? Because once price had this extension back up, it broke past our lower high. We know that if price breaks past a lower high to go form a new higher high, that means we have a switch of structure. And we know that if we have a higher high, that means we must have a higher low. So where is the higher low? Where is the last low point that presented us with the break of structure? That would be here. So instead of this being our new lower low, it then changes to a higher low due to the switch of structure taking place. And then what happens next? If we continue, price then has the extension back down, showing us another switch of structure. And we know this is a switch of structure because we see price breaks past a higher low. If price breaks past a higher low, we know price is going to form a new lower low in the market. And if price forms a lower low in the market, that means we must have a lower high. Where is the last high point that presented us with the break of structure? That would be here. So instead of it being our higher high, it then changes to a lower high due to the switch of structure. And if we continue, what happens next? Price has the retracement and then has an extension back down. Would this point be our new lower high? So would it look like this? No. Why? Because if we drag this out once more, we have our lower low and then we have our lower high. Did price give you a break past this lower high or a break past this lower low? Nothing took place around here, which means there's no new structure. Price is still in a bearish trend because we see a lower high and we see a lower low. But price does not have a continuation, nor does price have a switch of structure, because price never broke past our lower high or our lower low. Price is just forming pivot points. And so if we continue, we see pivot, 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 boom. Price formed a break past our lower low. And if we have a break past our lower low, that means we have a new lower low getting established, which was around here. And if we have a new lower low, that means we must have a lower high. So what would be the last previous high point in the market that presented us with this break of structure? Around here, because this is the last high point in the market that allowed this break of structure to take place. It wouldn't be here because we don't have the break of structure. It wouldn't be here because we don't have the break of structure. And it wouldn't be here because we don't have a break of structure. It will be here. This last high point in the market allowed us to have a break past our lower low. So this will be our lower high, since this is the last high point that established the break of structure. And then you see we have the new lower low. And then what happened? Price then had a retracement, a pivot, and then the next break of structure, breaking past this lower high. We have the last high point in the market that presented us with the break of structure. So now we have our new lower high, and then we just simply wait for price to form the next retracement in the market. Once we see this retracement get established, we can then mark this off as our new lower low, because this is the last low point before price started to retrace back towards the opposite direction. I pray that that made sense. And if you need more in-depth explanation on how to draw out the structure, if you want like a one-on-one, I have a Discord down below. You click the link, it takes you to the Discord. We hop on a call and we can discuss this further. But that's all for this video. I pray that this video helps you in so many ways, because this is all trading is. Identifying which way the market is heading. Are we heading up or are we heading down? Because if we're heading up, now we can buy the market. But if we're heading down, we know that we can sell the market. If you want to know where to buy and where to sell the market, who knows? I might just make another in-depth video only talking about how to find your areas of interest. That's it for this. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know how you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you all in the next one.